Hi guys, it's April and I garden down in southeast Nebraska, zone 6A, formerly 5B, and it's a garden tour time. This is the third garden tour of the season and it is overcast. So I'm going to be trying to do this before we get any kind of rain because it's been raining on and off for the last 12 hours or so. It's just that time of year, but it feels really nice out here. I'm not gonna lie. And of course, with the weather, there are a few things that have been changing in the garden, so I kind of want to show you some of those things. We are starting down here in my plant nursery area because this is one thing I want to talk about. In these pots right here, I have starts of zucchini and pumpkin. And if you remember from last week's garden tour, or if you haven't seen last week's garden tour, I started all of this in ground. But as you can see, we only have little tiny stalks because I have roly-polies that are just decimating all of my squashes as they come up. So I'm doing this next round in my nursery pots. Ooh, let's see if I can turn around. I'm starting them in these nursery pots in hopes that I can get them big enough that I can transplant them in the ground and the roly-polies won't take them out. I did do this last year because the squash were what I was doing in the test plot, and the test plot wasn't ready yet, but I wanted to make sure I started them at the right time, so I started them in these nursery pots and it worked out fairly well. I'm gonna need to come and dump that water out at some point. But the rest of these, I think I have one pepper plant and like 5 tomato plants still sitting here, are just plants that I just don't know what to do with right now. They're kind of my backup plan in case something in the garden decides that it's just done. So that's my nursery area. Otherwise, you've been seeing my peach tree with the chives and the strawberries are really producing right now. So most mornings I get 1 or 2 strawberries, which is nice. And over on the A-frame, we've got the volunteer squash, which obviously did not get taken out by the roly-polies. And they are looking better than I ever thought they would. So it'll be fun to see what these squashes actually are, because I have no idea. Over in the test plot, we have all the cover crop starting to flower and a volunteer sunflower, which, oops, there's actually a couple in there. There's one further back too, but here we are, it's fine. It's gonna get mowed down probably in 2 or 3 weeks, probably 2 weeks. We've got the pots here. The cilantro is looking really good. I still need to come back and do a harvest of that. This week is just been a little chaotic, so I haven't had a chance to. But this plant is doing really well. It is the Gandalf dwarf tomato. I'm excited to try it. And then over here, I think it's the Fuzzy Wuzzy. And we've got some flowers started. If I turn you around real quick. On the other side of the walkway, we've got some more cilantro. My basil, I mean, a lot of it is starting to go to flower, at least the stuff in pots over here. Ooh, that smells really good. But this Metallica dwarf tomato, she's looking good. Look at those leaves. It's a very happy plant. But now I'm gonna stand back up without falling over and show you the last cluster of pots around the fire pit. And that is this cluster here. Back there we've got Pico's Choice. And I actually, okay, let's see if I can manage to walk around all of these without falling over, but we have some tomatoes. So that's exciting. Oh, and look, I'm growing a weed. Yeah, my bunching onions, and this basil's doing a lot better. And I'm wondering if it's the variety. It's also getting eaten. So I need to take some clippings of that. This tomato plant over here, this is the Purple Rain. And I'm thinking it's the pot. Because for some reason, this pot always stays really wet when the rest of them dry up quickly. I think that's stunting this tomato. Because you will see when I get to it, the other Purple Rain is about twice the size of this. Okay, so now on to the beds. Here's where I'm taking a chance. We've got my Akoti green squash. Looks like we've got another one coming up, but I don't have a backup of this one started yet. I'm hoping the roly-poly will leave this alone because so far this bed hasn't seen a lot of roly-polies. I have a handful of ants that are driving me nuts in this bed, but not roly-polies. And I did get some marigolds at the farmer's market to replace the ones of mine that have gotten eaten. So you'll see, as we go through this garden tour, you'll see very big and very blooming marigolds. Those aren't mine, but I decided to support a local grower and pick up a good handful of those. We also do, besides the chilies back there, those are sweet cayenne. We also have several, let's see if I can get close. That's a jalapeno. We've got some over there. And then the long guy over here, that's a poblano, which I think this is probably the earliest I've ever seen peppers, especially the spicy peppers. Part of me is wondering if these concrete beds are heating up the soil more than my last beds were. So we might get produce a little earlier than I normally do because of the beds. Here we've got the garbanzo beans, the chickpeas, whatever you like to call them. They are getting very big. We did have a incident with the neighbor cat, as you can tell. Let's see if I can get over there. That little stump there. The cat decided to dig in the bed and it tore up some of the plants, but I think for the most part, this bed is still doing okay. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that I will get garbanzo beans this year. These are all of the black garbanzo beans. So I'm excited to see what those are like. And then in the sweet pepper bed, some more of those marigolds I was talking about. And I do have some of my marigolds coming in as well. But look at those peppers. The white varieties of peppers are always my first variety that come to fruit. So both of these are white peppers. This one is the albino bullnose, and this one is the snowball. To me, they're both the same. They just came from different places, so they're named different things. And there might be slightly different genetics in these two, but they taste the same, they look the same. They're just branded different. But I do have some others. This is the Lesia, and this is the Blot, and I have a yellow monster forming as well. I think that one's, it's either Sunshine or Sunbright, something to that effect. Something with the sun, so that should be a yellow bell pepper. I'm also starting to think that this variety of potato, which is the blackberry, might be an indeterminate variety because, that is ginormous. And if that's the case, I should have been hilling these potatoes. But I haven't been because I didn't think it was an indeterminate type. I'm used to growing the Magic Mollies, which are determinate, and I've never hilled them before, and they've always done great. It'll be interesting to see what my potato harvest actually looks like. The onions are getting taller, and of course we've got these tomato plants that are doing okay. This is the painted lady. She's starting to come in a little weird. She's not going up. And I looked it up, and supposedly she's an indeterminate plant, but she's growing like a determinate, which has me confused. Plus these leaves, I don't know what these leaves are doing right now. Some of it is because of the variegation. Sometimes it gets a weird curl, but they're still kind of growing in weird, so something is going on with her. But the rest of the tomato plants in this bed look just fine. And I did up pot, if you can call it that, the herb beds, because the soil had sunk so low. I ended up pulling the plants out and the homemade oyas, adding some soil, and then replanting these. But what I need to do is I need to figure out how to actually use the stevia, because I think it's time to start pulling leaves, because otherwise I'm losing them. So I need to figure out how to use those, so that I need to look up. I think it's just like other leaves, like the bee balm and stuff, you just put it in things, but I need to confirm that first. Did want to show you this backside of the bed real quick, because we have this little lettuce plant that volunteered itself. That's just hanging out. He makes me smile. And back here, I'm still watching these tomatoes grow. Looks like we've got 3 now. Still really firm. So this is the evil olive. So it will be mostly green when it is ripe, which is why I'm keeping my eye on it. I think it's the only plant producing in this bed as of right now, which isn't surprising because normally we don't get tomatoes this early. But of course, we've got some more of those marigolds I was talking about. And I will quickly take you back here and show off the water lilies. And yes, the water's getting a little dingy. We will get that fixed. But the water lilies seem to like it. And all of my zinnias are starting to come up, along with the grass, but you know, you can only fight so many battles at once, right? I haven't shown the kiwi off quite yet, but the kiwi plants are getting big, and the other plant is down there. I still don't know if I have male or female plants. And of course, the ones that I tried to grow inside this year didn't take. So I might just have to purchase some kiwi plants from the nursery next spring and then hope that these guys can have a conversation together. But we'll see. I'm gonna show you this mess real quick. All that clustered back down there, those are all volunteer sunflowers. And they have, I don't know if you can see it, they have volunteered in the grass like crazy. We've been mowing them down for the past couple of weeks, but I don't even know what variety these are. But I'm excited to see how they bloom. I haven't seeded anywhere the sunflowers. I've just let the volunteers grow this year, mainly because I do want to get all of this sod ripped out at some point. I'm hoping sometime in June that happens. So I didn't want to necessarily plant in this area with my seed stock. I just wanted to see what grew, because originally I wasn't planning on having this be Sunflower Alley again. I was actually thinking at some point that this whole strip right here along this fence would be kiwi and grapes, because I can use this fence as a trellis. And with the sod pulled up all around the beds and all around in here, I could have sunflowers along this white fence, because it kicks up so much heat. But because that hasn't happened yet, it might be a next year project. So I'm saving the seeds for then, and then I will sow this whole area with sunflowers. Here I've got the jelly melons. We have both varieties starting to come up, which is exciting. And this nasturtium just doesn't like this area. I will say it's probably because there is a bracket holding these two concrete slabs together, and it might be hitting that with its roots or anywhere else, and since that's metal, it might be heating up. I don't know. It's just not happy. But it's trying, so I'm letting it try. Otherwise, the calendula is looking really good. Of course, I didn't plant either of those. Here we've got more of the herbs, which I also bumped up the soil on this too, so they all got pulled out and then put back in. Got some more tomatoes that are growing big. I have been pruning off the bottom parts and then trying to keep them to 1 liter. Sometimes it gets away with me and I don't have the heart to cut off another liter. So we'll see how this goes, but these onions are ginormous. Some of those are looking pretty thick too. And then here we've got carrots, which are looking good. Eggplants. I mean, it just might be that it's not hot enough, but they're not putting on a ton of growth. They're also a patio variety, so they shouldn't get too big because I don't need a lot of eggplant. Some of the beans are looking good. others are being decimated by something. But it's also the reason I plant so many plants. I'm willing to share because I don't necessarily want to use something that I wouldn't like to consume. I'm trying to do it as organically as I can. So sometimes that means just overseeding. Now this is the other purple rain. Granted, now that I look at it, it's not necessarily twice as tall, it's just twice as wide. So maybe the purple rain is just a smaller dwarf variety, because all these other dwarf varieties are pretty big. I think I need to go back and look at the average height of that plant. And then we've got potatoes, which, like I said, these are the magic mollies. And as you can tell, they're not nearly as big as the blackberry potatoes back there. They're probably, oh my gosh, half the bush size as the other ones. So I don't know. Sometimes I just plant things without doing all of the research and just hope it works out. You can kind of see the peppers that are in here. I think it's only the Lesia in the back there that has a pepper on it. Not that you can see it from here. Maybe I'll take you around to see it. Here we go, this is a better angle. This is the only pepper of these pepper plants, and that pepper was already there when I planted it. So it hasn't put on any new peppers since being planted. And these are, like I said, more of my beans. And apparently a volunteer tomato. That'll probably get pulled. I'll take you to the other bed, where we have all of these plants right here, looking a little spindly. Oop, as I fall over. But for all the spindle, we do have some tomatoes forming. Let's see if I can, excuse me. Got some flowers, and I think some of them have got actual tomatoes forming. So that's exciting. And here, the midnight Roma is starting to form tomatoes. Don't know what happened here, but that looks a little concerning. But I think that's only paste tomato that has any flowers on it right now. And then we have the Starfighter plot, which I have not noticed any tomatoes on, but they are growing in weird. And I don't know if they're supposed to be growing like that, but like all three, technically four of them, are grown the same way, with really small, skinny leaves. So I guess we just wait and see what happens. But I'm going to take you to the side of the deck and we can look at all of those. Okay, so this is the stevia and the basil over here, which looks to be doing okay. However, I don't know if the loofah is going to make it, you stupid bugs. They're just so aggressive this year, and I don't understand. So I might just have to give up on the loofah for this year. But the sweet potato that I thought was going to do absolutely nothing is just going crazy right now. So that might just fill in this whole pot when the loofah decide that it's just not going to do it. These peas, I need to come through and I need to pull some of these peas because plants are going crazy. What I don't understand is all of these that I planted are purple, but about half the plants that are growing are only producing green. So something's going on there. And then the garlic. I'm guessing the garlic just had so much water last week, and then at the beginning of this week, didn't have quite the same amount of water. And so it's starting to complain. So the garlic isn't looking quite as well as I want it to look. Some of the stalks are pretty thick, but I don't think I'm gonna get very big garlic bulbs this year. Oh, and look, I've got volunteer tomatoes growing in the garlic. Those are probably a bumblebee variety because that's what I had here last year. I'm probably gonna go through and probably want to do it tomorrow and fertilize. See if that helps at all. Because otherwise it's gonna go the way of this bed that's just dying off on me. Which is a little sad. I mean, I've always had decent luck with garlic, but it's not enjoying this area. And part of it is we're having some sprinkler issues over here. The watering system isn't quite set up right, and I think that's affecting the garlic. I do have some more pine berries. Every once in a while we just dig through all of the pine berries and we get a good handful or two, which is nice. I did start harvesting the radishes, so we've been eating some of those. I need to go through and just cut a bunch of that lettuce because it's not looking great. Some of it's starting to head, if you can kind of see that. I can't get over there right now without tripping on all the pine berries. But some of it's looking a little, why are we here? But the leaves are huge, kind of like that's a basil back there. Compared to all my potted basils, it is looking so good. So when I get a chance, I'll probably do a planting of New Zealand spinach, which is a heat-tolerant variety of spinach. I'll probably plant that there. And then back over there, we have the Fred plot of tomatoes that are doing pretty well. Looks like I've got a strawberry right there I need to go fight for. But these chives and strawberries are a little more tame than the ones I showed you at the beginning. This is where I planted the zucchini in the ground, and as soon as they come up, they're eaten. And I think it's just that roly-polies really like squash. Something about the squash plants. I don't know. I'm also trying something a little new with the blueberry plants this year. As you can see, I've got some of my compost all around there. I have an electronic composter that right now, since the garden isn't producing, mostly has eggshells and coffee grounds in it. And I figured the coffee grounds would be good for the acidity of the tomato plants. So we'll see how and if that does them any good. But otherwise, that is the garden as it stands right now, both success and failures. There she is. So I'll keep you updated on how my battle with the roly-polies and the squash and all of that go. I really don't have high hopes for that loofah plant. I was so excited about it, but it's not looking good. I've been putting DE around where the roly-polies are especially bad, but as soon as that gets washed away, it's like they don't care anymore, which makes sense. But that is, like I said, the garden so far. I do these garden tours every week because I like to look back and see how things have changed in the garden and where things are kind of at, and it's a visual reference for me later down the line of where the garden has been at historically from year to year. So if you want to see more garden tours, they're just gonna be like this. They're low key, they're just me rambling about things. Feel free to subscribe down below, hit the bell, do all the things to get all of the notifications. I usually post photos of what I'm harvesting over on Instagram and on Threads. So if you want to check that out as well, feel free. Otherwise, I'm probably going to pick some peas for the dogs and I'm going to go in and work because I gotta work. So I do hope to see you again in another video, and I heart your beautiful faces. Bye.